Hey guys, welcome back. It's Kenny Phases here with CG Cookie. Today we'll be creating this proximity-based crystal growth effect in Blender, which will help you not only gain a fundamental understanding of geometry nodes, but also materials and lighting. This setup is almost entirely procedural and it's beginner friendly. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First, we'll set up our proximity effect using geometry nodes. I'll start with a sphere for simplicity, but you can use any object you like. Here's an overview of the following nodes you will need. Each node is responsible for something different, and they work in unison to create our effect. I'll be going over the basics for each purpose of each individual node. If you're already comfortable with geometry nodes, you might want to consider putting this part on 2x speed. We'll start with creating a new geometry node setup and adding our node ingredients. With our object input, we'll need to distribute points on faces first. You can see that this gets rid of our initial object, so we'll add it back using a join geometry node, plugging both inputs into it. Now we have both our points and the original object. Now we need to take those points and use an instance on points node, which allows us to place an object on each point. We'll eventually plug in our crystal shapes into the instance socket, but for now I'll use a cube as a placeholder. I also want our instances to face outwards away from our object, as if they're growing outwards like crystals. Using the align rotation to vector node, I will align them to the normal of our original object and plug that rotation vector into the rotation for our instance on points node. This will align our objects properly so that they face outwards. Next, we will actually make our instances react to another object. First, we'll need another object in our scene, so I'll just add another sphere, scale it down, placing it somewhere outside of the perimeter of our original object. This sphere will be used to trigger the crystal growth effect. I'll now add a scale instances node, which will allow us to individually scale each instance object. By clicking and dragging our outer sphere into geometry nodes, I can actually convert it into an object info node, setting its position to relative. Now, I will plug in its geometry data into a geometry proximity node. This tells the proximity node everything it needs to know about the sphere, such as its location. Now we can use that to drive our effect. In this case, we'll want to know the exact distance from our original object, so we can plug in that specific socket into our scale instances node. You can now see that we directly affect the scale of each instance as we move our external object. To refine this further, you can use a map range node, flipping the values to see the reverse result. This map range node essentially works like a color ramp, allowing us to adjust the falloff in both directions. Now, before we continue adding more control to our node setup, we'll need some actual crystals. So I'll add a new collection, naming it Crystal Shapes. Now I'll simply model a few basic crystals from primitives, giving them a slight bevel for added detail. Make sure to set the bottom of each crystal's origin to the 3D cursor, or you might have some scaling issues. Make sure that all crystal objects are in this collection if you want to use them as instances. Now we can drag that whole collection into geometry nodes, creating a new node for it. After clicking Separate Children, which treats each object as a separate instance, we can plug our collection into the instance slot. Make sure to also check Pick Instance, which will instance each object onto each point separately instead of combining them all. I'll also add a value node to scale down the instances from the beginning. Now, for further refinement, we can add some random scaling and random rotation to our instances using the Scale Instances node and the Rotate Instances node. These nodes will each be driven by random values. This will allow us to randomly select values for each given instance. You can play around with these numbers to produce the result that you want, but I'm thinking something slightly subtle. Now that we have some random rotation and scaling for our crystals, we can move on to our materials. Now, typically for materials, I like to create a dedicated collection with spheres, assigning each material separately to each object. This helps me keep track of things. I'll start by creating my crystal shader. This setup involves creating a mix shader to transition between two different glass styles. I'll start by mixing two glass shaders together. I'll make them different colors so I can easily see my results. I'll drive the factor of these with a color ramp and some simple mapping. What this allows us to do is transition from one material to the next, achieving a gradient-like appearance that you would normally see in amethyst crystals. The bottom gradient is responsible for the white faded part of the crystal, while the top is the colored section. Using our color ramp node, we can actually perform some geometry node trickery to slightly change our instance color per crystal. Choose some color stops that have similar colors with a little bit of variation. By plugging in an attribute node, we can use the color output and plug it into the color ramp. Now, you can name your attribute variable whatever you like. We'll hop back over to geometry nodes and use a set material node after the instances. Now we'll select our crystal material, and to correct the look, we can actually add a stored name attribute node, which will allow us to pull that variable name from earlier. In this case, we want the color attribute and the instance domain. Now, by simply plugging in a random value node to the value socket, we can give our crystals some random color variation. Now, since I'm going for a slightly more realistic feel on this effect, I'll head over to polyhaven.com and I'll download a model of a rock. In this case, I'll be using this boulder I found. We'll be using this for both the texture and environment setup. After downloading the zip file, we'll extract the files inside and open up that Blender file we're given. We'll copy the main object into our new file, and with our original object selected, we'll set its material to that same texture. I think that a slightly less saturated rock color would work better for this, so I'll add a hue and saturation node and modify the downloaded material. You can even consider adding a brightness contrast node for further refinement. Now I'll place a camera onto my scene, setting it up to face our objects with a head-on view. I'll use a 100mm lens, and I'll also change my output dimensions to 1920 by 1080 for standard YouTube size. Now it's just a matter of setting up some basic lighting on our scene. I'll add a simple HDRI texture from polyhaven.com, and I'll set its strength value to something like 0.1. Now we'll set up a 3-point lighting system with 1 light at the top and 2 on the sides. I'll choose relatively strong power values for the left and the right, while choosing a lighter value for the top light. You can use any color you'd like, but I prefer a subtle yellow or orange color for some added warmth. Next, we'll take our boulder and duplicate it around our scene to create a unique environment. Since we're using the same boulder repeatedly, make sure to angle each one for a random look. I tend to place a scaled up version far in the background, creating a closed-in environment feel. You may find yourself having to move your lights around a bit to fit this added environment. Lastly, for the icing on the cake, I'll add a soft backlit glow behind our sphere using a purple color to emanate the vibe of the crystals. Make sure to use a wide spread count and a lower power value for a gradient fall off. For the smaller sphere, I'll give it a simple metallic shader, scaling it and placing it in the desired position. If you want extra crystals on your other boulders, all you have to do is copy the geometry nodes modifier right over to them. Make sure to apply your scale if you do this, as the instances are dependent on this. To finish things up, I'll animate our external sphere on a circle path. Start by adding a circle path, rotating it to face upright. Now, simply add the follow path constraint to your small sphere, clicking Animate Path to animate its movement. Make sure you center your small sphere to your scene at 0, 0, 0, XYZ. To change the speed and duration, click your curve and head over to Object Data Properties. Under the Path Animation tab, you can simply change the frame count for how long the animation will take. As a finishing touch, I'll add some slight depth of field to our camera to focus on our main crystal object. Now we've got ourselves one awesome crystal growth animation. At this point, we're ready to render. I like high quality renders, so I'll set my resolution to 200% and I'll use about 150 samples with denoising enabled. Our finished result looks satisfying. One thing to keep in mind as you build your project is that it most likely won't look exactly like this example. There are small nuanced tweaks and changes that you'll want to make, making it your own. Don't aim for perfection, aim to learn and take away useful techniques that you can use for your own personal projects. If you're looking for this exact result, however, we do have the source file ready for you to download. If you like this geometry nodes tutorial, I highly suggest checking out our recent video on the top 8 geometry nodes setups. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.